common sense with the senior delinquents.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Senior Delinquents. Not many people remember that before the late 60s, touring professionals had to be PGA members and be affiliated with a member golf club. A separation led to the PGA Tour. It was a seismic event in professional golf, and now another seismic event is taking place with the merger of the PGA Tour and their greatest competitor, Live Golf. I'm Dennis Silvers here in Las Vegas, along with my great co-host, Jamie McWilliams, who's in beautiful Tampa, Florida. Jamie?
Well, Dennis, you might notice that I'm wearing green because today we're talking big golf. And to have big golf talked about, we have a special guest. Unknown to me, John Ziegler grew up just a couple of towns away in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania. An outstanding golfer, he played at the Division I collegiate level and went on to pursue an eclectic career in sports media, on radio, television, and in print. However, his interests go well beyond this. He's an on-air contributor to News Nation and has his own highly regarded and listened to podcast, The Death of Journalism. As someone who knows and has covered golf, John, how would you assess journalism in this realm, especially with how the game's evolving?
Wow. How much time do you have? I think that the golf media is more broken, more fundamentally, than any other element of the news media. For a lot of very obvious reasons. I actually used to work for the PGA Tour and PGA Tour Productions. I've been fired from many jobs, but the first real firing I ever experienced was from the PGA Tour when I realized I was just not cut out to be part of a propaganda unit, which is what the PGA Tour Productions was. That was back in the old days when they had This Week in the PGA Tour on ESPN. That was the main show that PGA Tour Productions produced on a weekly basis. I have been a strong critic of the sports media and the golf media in particular ever since. And I think the main problem is the inherent and obvious conflicts of interests. There's no other sport where the golf media or the media covering a sport has a more intimate relationship with the players and is more reliant on the players than in the world of golf. And there's also no gig that is cushier than covering golf. You're going to spectacular new places almost every week. You don't want to lose that gig because it's too damn cushy. And in order to do real journalism, you have to be willing to be unliked. You have to be willing to ruffle some feathers from time to time. You have to be willing to tell the truth. And I think indirectly it has led to this entire rift between the PGA Tour and Live Golf. And it might surprise people to know that even though I was once fired by the PGA Tour, I loathe Live Golf with a white-hot passion. I have watched it on television many times. It's terrible. It is destroying the essence of the game. And then there's the moral issue of supporting not just an adversarial foreign power in Saudi Arabia, but they are allowing a kamikaze attack to occur on an American institution and a charity. And the idea that Phil Mickelson is being turned into some sort of hero standing on principle for having basically found a way to pay off his gambling debts, I will never forgive him for what he has done here.
Do you think that the coverage in some ways reflects anything in terms of wokeism?
I actually do think that golf, especially on NBC, is unbelievably woke and way more liberal than their audience probably even realizes. I happen to have been at Georgetown University with Molly Solomon. I was on the golf team, and Molly Solomon has effectively been running the Golf Channel. Clearly the most powerful woman in golf television, and I know her to be very, very liberal. She, along with others at NBC Universal, have really instituted an extremely liberal bias, and it's mostly in the realm of affirmative action, even giving spots in PGA Tour events based upon race, something that is being promoted constantly by the Golf Channel. CBS isn't as bad because Jim Nantz is clearly a conservative. I think where this really went into the realm of having a huge and underrated impact was when COVID hit. I believe that if NBC had not been nearly as liberal in their bias, and if Molly and others had not been key players in this, that golf would have continued to play at least without crowds, because that was the original intent of the PGA Tour. And they caved because of their very liberal mindset. The PGA Tour shutting down was the final nail in the coffin for how we were going to handle COVID. I think that if the PGA Tour had continued to play and showed the world that this could be done without risk, and that it was okay to be outside, and it was okay to have interaction with people, and that no one was going to die because of it, we could have opened schools up a hell of a lot faster. Other sports would have opened up a hell of a lot faster. But the PGA Tour let us all down. I will never forgive the Masters, because the Masters had the power to say, we play our tournament the second week of April every year, and this isn't going to change it. You don't want to show up, don't show up. But we're going to have our tournament, and you guys can do whatever the hell you want. The old Augusta National would have done that. But the new Augusta National is becoming almost as woke as NBC, at least in comparison to what they used to be. And it had a massive impact.
Now, with the money going from very good to astronomically well paid, it is mostly still about the money ultimately, that is going to be the driving factor that determines where this tour evolves.
I agree with the adage that money is the root of all evil. And I think we have seen this in sports in general, but I think that golf is particularly vulnerable. In a team sport, yes, getting paid a ridiculous amount of money may mitigate the incentive structure of the individual, but you're still playing for a team. You're still playing for a city. But when it's an individual sport, then it has a much greater impact. When you are set for life because of the way the payment structure in golf has radically been altered, what difference does it make whether you play well or not? Even Jack Nicklaus, at least at the beginning of his career, if he missed a cut, he was literally driving with Barbara and the kids to the next event. It made a major financial impact on even Jack Nicklaus. If one of these stars misses a cut now, what's the punishment? I got to go home in my private jet to spend time with my hot wife and my beautiful kids in my mansion. Gee, my heart is breaking for them. The essence of golf used to be dealing with fear. And seeing how the best players in the world dealt with fear was part of what made it compelling. Now, at the highest level, there's no fear at all. There's no fear because the driver is the most forgiving club in the bag now. You used to be terrified to hit a driver, especially the first swing of the day.
All of the coverage with the technology and the tracing make you realize how much better these guys are when you look at shot after shot after shot perfectly traced. Can you really relate to that, even a good golfer?
Well, that's a really good point, because to me, one of the things that made golf so interesting and compelling for the average viewer was that it's the most relatable sport, or at least it used to be.
You can always hit that one great shot.
Yeah. Right. Well, because on any given moment, even a decent golfer could hit a shot theoretically as well, or maybe even better than a professional could. In Nicklaus's era, if you were a really good amateur player, if he hit a bad drive and you hit a good drive, you were within 10 to 20 yards of him. Today, that's not even close to the case. If I was playing against the top players in the world, I could hit my best drive of the year, and I'm a good tournament caliber player. They could hit the worst drive of the year. They would still be 20, 30 yards beyond me. And so it's not relatable anymore.
Unfortunately, we're all a little bit older, but hopefully wiser. But regarding the integrity of the game and the way these very talented newcomers come in and look at the game, John, you actually experienced a situation that puts you into a very uncomfortable position. Tell us about it, please.
I played in a U.S. amateur qualifier early this year. I was paired with a very young high school kid, and this was on a very difficult golf course. I knew I wasn't going to play 36 holes, and I had already set it up with the the people who were in charge of the tournament, that wasn't going to cause a problem. So I was keeping this young player's score, and I decided I would withdraw after the 7th hole. I knew I was out of it. I intended to play through 9, right? And then give him the scorecard and then drop out, because that would be the natural place at this clubhouse to drop out. And he wanted me to go forward on my own. And I was confused by that. Why does he want me to move on? And so I took the scorecard, and since we had completed 7 holes and he had just previously bogeyed the last 2 holes, and he was right on the cut line until he made those 2 bogeys, I put my initials, JZ, and I handed him the card. I said so long, and I drove home. It's a 2-hour drive from where that course is to where I live, and then I checked the scores when I got back home. I look at the scores, and one of the people that's still in contention is the kid that I was playing with. And much to my shock, the last 2 holes that we had played together had been changed from bogeys to pars. This is the most blatant example of cheating I've ever seen in 45 years of tournament play. They called the kid. He denied the whole thing, which also stunned me. And then they sent me the scorecard. Not only were my numbers clearly erased, he then wrote in numbers in his own handwriting, which included the number 4 in a fashion that I don't write my 4s. He wrote his 4s with a triangle at the top. I use right angles. They finally, quote unquote, disqualified this kid. And his name was, he had actually finished tied for an alternate spot. The biggest takeaway is something is broken, especially among the younger generation when it comes to golf and character and morality. I think golf is in big trouble in a lot of ways. I think the LIV PGA Tour rift, which I'm not optimistic is going to be able to be solved. There's some inherent problems there that make a deal basically impossible. So I'm a pessimist by nature, but I love golf, but I'm very concerned about where things are going to head in the next couple of decades.
John, thank you so much for sharing your opinions. And next time you'll just have to be a little bit more, forthcoming. Don't hold back so much.
I'll try.
But,
I'll try.
Don't forget, everybody, you could catch every single episode on our website, seniordelinquents.com, as well as various other social media platforms.
Well, Dennis, our guest certainly didn't hold back today, and that means I don't hold back either. So until next time, hi-ho Silvers, away.